Let's give the Lord a hand. All right, so today's sermon is called, well, Pastor actually mentioned it when he was doing talking on the stage. Instead of changing your thinking, it's changing your mindset. I feel, this week I was kind of like trying to figure out what I was going to talk about because it was getting towards the end of the week and I'm like, I ain't got nothing. I don't know what to talk about. I'm like, may not have nothing, right? I might just come up here with nothing, right? And I was praying and, just thinking about what was talked about and so forth. And, Pastor Eugene made a post inside the Youth Telegram about something. And, I went and prayed, and for some reason, the story about Leah and Rachel came into my head. And, I did my little reading on it, and I kind of, went into it, tried to figure, just read it to, see why. And so what I realized is people tend to want to have what others have because, it looks good, because it looks nice, and, because that person has everything, and, sometimes you don't have it, right? And I feel like sometimes people lose themselves in that because they're too worried about, wanting to look good like somebody else or feel good like somebody else. And it's just fake, right? And we just use that and make everything look good because, we want to look like how the other people look. And sometimes we feel as we don't have the value. And, what I mean by the value as in the looks, the nice things and so forth. And, we forget that, with God, we're a lot more valuable than just what other people think or what other people look like, right? God has made us in our own image. God created us, right, to look like him. Yes, the nice things are nice. You want to look good. You want to have your hair cut. You want to have your hair looking nice and everything and so forth, right? But at the end of the day, you got to remember that God looks at you as his child. He doesn't look at you based upon your looks. He doesn't look at you based upon your personality. And that's what a lot of people have, in this world, that's what a lot of people use that as, right? If you realize, right, and I'm not, I don't want to sound like, I don't know, I'm just going to say it. Like, if you notice nowadays in the real world, girls and guys are they look at somebody because of how they look, right? They want to be with somebody based upon how they look. Oh, this girl is bad. Oh my gosh, she looked good. And then you got the girls you got a nerd come up to you, and I'm not knocking the nerd. The nerds really be smart too, and but you got a girl got a nerd come up to him, and the girl thinks she all that, and she throws him off because he just looks the way he looks, and that's not how God has made this world. God has made us to look in his image, and people miss that. People don't see that. And it's kind of crazy because at the end of the day, if you continue to look for something within, looking for a look or looking for a personality that you feel like you may like, at the end, you're just going to end up in a situation where that feeling is going to fade away. That feeling that you feel is not going to be the way that it looks no more. The makeup is nice. The perfect, all of that is great. But then once you get in this relationship with somebody, next thing you start to see the real inside of the person. They look good on the outside, but they don't look good on the inside. Right? And, we're chasing after a dream that is not real. Right? And, I was I was reading the book. I was reading Genesis. I was reading Genesis 30, and I'm going to read it. Jacob got angry with Rachel and said, "Am I God? Am I the one who refused your babies?" So if you guys don't know, basically, Jacob worked so hard for Rachel, and he will, because she was this flaunting thing to his eyes, right? And he worked for that purpose. He wasn't, in a technical sense, he wasn't really working for God in a sense, right? He was working for her, if that makes sense. He was working for what he thought was fabulous, right? And so, as he's working for that, then, 7 years go by, and then the next thing he's like, here's my daughter, and it wasn't Rachel, it was Leah. And the thing about Leah is, the thing about Rachel is that she couldn't produce kids. The thing about Leah, wait, did I say that right? Did I say Rachel, right? Yeah, okay. Leah, she could reproduce kids. And so he ended up being with Leah, and then the dad said, come back, do my work for 7 more years, and I'll provide you with Rachel. And so, Jacob was looking at Rachel for her beauty, or per se, and, he wasn't feeling Leah, right? And, as time went on, Rachel started to realize that her sister could reproduce kids, and she felt the purpose of this message is about jealousy. She felt jealous about her sister. She felt jealous because she couldn't have what her sister had, right? And so, with that, since she couldn't produce a kid, Rachel couldn't produce kids, she had a maid sleep with Jacob so that she can basically claim a kid that's not really hers. But she's claiming the kid that's not really hers because she wants to be like Leah. Right? And so that's what we do sometimes, is that, we can't have something, so we try to make it look like, when we do it on our own, and, we're trying to copy somebody else's style, somebody else's blessing, right? We try to make it look good and be like, oh, God did this for me. Did he really, though? He did it for somebody else that was in the season. And yes, he may do it for you, but is it really your season to be in? Right? We're trying to one up somebody's blessing that was granted to them based off of their hard work. And as the person that's trying to one up, we haven't done anything to deserve anything that somebody else has gotten. And so, when back in, I don't remember when this was, but I'm being real honest with you guys, is that, when I was on dance team A, I was on all of these things, right? Reason why I tried so hard to be, good at the situation is, what I come to realize is that I was jealous of other people because they were better than me. Right? And, everyone has that. Everyone has that feeling like, oh, this person is better than me. I gotta be like them. I gotta feel like them. I gotta be happy like them. And, one thing that I realize now is that I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel joy in what I was doing. I just wanted to feel like I was doing something. And, when I got taken down, the first, yes, of course you can be obedient and follow the instruction. You could say yes. You could take it with a great assault, right? But then you start to think like, but I'm just like them. I'm doing good. I'm making it look good, right? I'm doing all these hours for God. I'm doing all these things, trying to stay afloat with the team, trying to, make sure my rapping's good, make sure that, all of this is great. But I'm doing that for the crowd at that point, right? I'm doing it to please you guys in a sense that, I'm not even supposed to be doing that for you. I'm supposed to be doing it for him above all things else. And, when I got taken down, I was a very jealous person of, wanting to, because, it was something that I lived for. It wasn't something that it was something that I lived for, but I wasn't living for God. And, it was very hard for me to let that go because I always had that mindset of like, I'm good. And I feel like as humans, we always feel like we're good. We feel like we're the best at something. We feel like when somebody comes to us and tells us something, we can't take what they say because we feel what we think is totally correct. We get jealous at certain things, but then when, we learn how to fix it, we can't fix it because our pride is too busy in the way. And, it's like, and the bad part about it is that we have no feeling towards it when we're doing such things. We think it's right. We think how we treat somebody is right. We think how we look at somebody is great. Right? Oh, I'm looking at this person. I'm doing this. Oh, because, they're doing it for God. And I'm looking at them. Oh, so great. Look at my brother and sister doing their thing. But then we go home and then we go thinking like, that dance move wasn't so great on that person. Oh, the person didn't play the piano correctly today. And why is that? Because something we can't have. Something we can't grab onto, or sometimes we feel that, if we say such thing, if we say such thing behind such person or behind such group or such individuals, that, God will come in and he will grant me and he will bless me to be back on this team. He will grant or bless me to be back on this situation that I lost. And one thing that you fail to forget is at that point, you're just judging God, and God's not going to bring you back for anything that you're judging him for. At that point, we lost where our importance of our mindset was. We lost where we're supposed to be thinking, which is the good things of God, which is the good things of our fellow brothers and sisters. We lose the mindset and we change the mindset on our own. We start to think that the mindset that we were so magically used to is the correct thing that we're supposed to be used to. And we think that, what God has shown us is irrelevant to anything that we think is correct. And, that was me. I was very oblivious to my own insecurity. my own thought process, my own thinking, right? And, I was just talking to me and Pastor and, Darren were just outside. And, Pastor was saying that, at the same time, I had a test that I needed to pass, right? And, if I would have let that sink in me and not somehow try to find a way to let it go, at that point, I could have fallen far away. I could have fallen to the point to where there could have been no return, right? And some people fail to make the right decision. Some people fail to let go of what they feel and, actually gain the greater blessing in the end. And, when we do such thing, God is like, I think he questions. Like, why do you guys think this way? Have you not seen what I've done for you guys? Have you not seen how I've changed your life around? No matter how good you feel you fit in. No matter how good, you're such in this area or whatever the case may be. Because we got to remember that he actually saved us when we had nothing. We were broke. We had no homes to stay in. We had nothing to, give. And, even though we had nothing to give, he still gave to us. And he gave to everyone, every single individual that's here in this congregation, every single person that, he has saved. He has given upon no expectation. And we go to judge somebody based off of the talent that God has given. We go to judge somebody based off of what they have, what that other person has sacrificed for God. And sometimes we may not even know what some people may have sacrificed in their life to be in the situation that they're in. And sometimes there's never an explanation needed. We should be happy for a person that gets the blessing. We should be happy for a person that is much better than us. I come to realize that, now with my past thinking of always wanting to be perfect, always wanting to one up somebody, is that I find no happiness in that. There's a hole in the situation that is occurring. How do you fulfill that hole? How do you fulfill a joy for somebody? How do you fulfill a greater purpose for yourself? And God gives us the answer. Now when I think about it, now, I'm the leader of dance team B, right? And one thing that I always tell the team, because it's something that I've learned, is what I always tell the team is, I'm not expecting to be greater than you guys. I'm not expecting to know all the dance moves like you guys. The purpose of me, the purpose why I'm here, is to make sure that you guys perform your best for the Lord. You don't perform for me. You don't perform for the crowd. You don't perform for anybody else. You perform for what the relationship that you have with God, and you bring that on the stage and you perform that for him. And that is the main concept that you're supposed to live for. Not what other people think about you, not what you think you might mess up on. I tell the team all the time, if you mess up, keep going. And 9 times out of 10, nobody's going to know that you messed up. And, coming from a mindset of where I always used to look at like, oh, I got to be like them. I got to make sure that my dance move is the same. I got to make sure that my life is the same as them. I don't need it to be the same. God has made me for me. At the end of the day, I may not be as talented or anything like that, but I know one thing is that God uses me. And, God says to love your fellow brothers and sisters. He says to, love them as I love the church, as I love the congregation. As I love your brothers and sisters, as I love your husband, as I love the husbands and wives, as I love this, that, and the other, right? And, he does that so he shows us that there's nothing that we need to worry about. There's nothing that we need to feel like we need to be jealous of. There's nothing that we feel like we should hold our pride to a standard to not being able to release it, to be able to let God in and soak in us. And, when we gossip, when we talk about people behind our back, and, we feel a certain way behind people's back, we're just basically judging one person. We're basically putting them at a standard that that putting them at a standard that they feel they shouldn't be at. And we don't try to make it better for ourselves. We just make it harder. And it's like, why try to take the hard way when God gives us an easy route? God has written the Bible and God has given us the word. And, somehow we can't live in the word. We feel like we still have to live in our flesh. Somehow we feel we shouldn't have to pray for a blessing. We shouldn't have to pray to be, for God to reveal our talents. We feel like it should just be granted to us. We feel that, if God says he is who he is and he's going to save our family or he's going to do this and that and the third, and we feel that, this is going to happen, it's going to be grand, and sometimes we feel like we shouldn't put in the work for it. We feel like we should judge one person because they're not worthy of what they have. And that's a very, to me now, that's a very, petty mindset. It's crazy when you view it a different way now, when you've actually realized how you were treating people. Yes, you may be nice. Oh, it's good to see you. How you doing? Oh my God, yes, this week was crazy. But then you just basically walking up to them and just putting up a two-faced lie and then walking away and talking behind somebody's back. Not somebody's back, but behind God's back. And the crazy part about it is you can't talk behind God's back because he's always where you are, and he will follow, and he does listen, and he does hear it. And the crazy part about it is, and as he hears it, and your life never increases. And, not only in that season where, I was in in my wilderness season, not only was it, I need to sit back and, figure out, my relationship with God, figure out, sit there, practice, rap, singing, whatever the case may be. God was saying to me, you need to look at what's deep down in your heart that you feel, that you need to realize that you need to let go. And it takes a lot of work and a lot of timing to actually look down deep in your heart, to figure out what is holding you back. What are you doing that is affecting you in God's relationship? What is it that, why is it that I'm taking you down? Why is it that I can't use you right now because I need you to work on something? And, People don't really like look at it that way. They just look at it like, oh, I was the best at something. And to be completely honest with you, nobody's the best at anything. No one's good at anything. God can use a person that don't know how to dance and magically give them the dance moves to learn how to be the greatest dancer in the world. God can use a singer that can use a person that never sung a day in their life. And somehow, next thing you know, this person could be the greatest singer in the world. Pastor talks about Elon Musk. Elon Musk is a very knowledgeable person, right? It takes the time and effort for somebody to be used that way. And God puts those situations out there for us to learn from those situations that if God could do it for an unbeliever like Elon himself, he could do it for a believer that believes in God himself. And Matthew 7, 1-5. Don't pick on people, jump on their failures, criticize their faults, unless, of course, you want the same treatment. God will use anything that you use towards somebody, anything that you judge a person for, anything that you feel is greater for your needs, and he will come back and he will grant you the same situation that you're granting yourself towards somebody else. That critical spirit has a way of boomeranging. It's easy to see a smudge on your neighbor's face and be oblivious to the ugly sneer on you. You could be saying things, and that's another thing. We say things, we do things like, oh yeah, this person's doing bad, this, that, and the other, and we're only saying that because we're doing it ourselves. And a lot of people don't think that way. They think, oh, that person's doing a bad thing, and oh well, at the end of the day, they got a season to go through too. But at the same time, God is bringing that situation upon you because it's the same situation that's running through you that's running through somebody else. And 9 times out of 10, when you're speaking about somebody else's situation in a negative way, that means that you basically, whatever you're judging that person off of is basically a reflection of yourself. Do you have the nerve to say, let me wash your face for you, when your own face is distorted by contempt? We go to God and say, God, bless me. God, can you do this for me? God, can you change my family situation? But then, we too busy looking at somebody else's situation and not allowing God to actually fix our own. It's this whole traveling roadshow mentality all over again, playing a holier than thou part instead of just living your part. Wipe that ugly sneer off your own face, and you might be fit to offer a washcloth to your neighbor. Change how you think about somebody, and you may be able to be used to actually help somebody else. Change what you view somebody, and God may be able to use you to actually, be a part with somebody else. Change your thinking, change your mentality, change how you do your day-to-day life. Change how you view other people. Rather that be not only in church, not only in work, not only whatever the case may be in your family, in different states, different cities, this, that, whatever. Change your thinking. How can I encourage another person? How can I let go of whatever is holding on into me? Jealousy, pride, you name it, right? How can I build my faith upon the Lord and actually sink in what it means to actually be glad for somebody? Be thankful that God is using my fellow brother, sister, my partner, whatever the case may be, for the glory of God. Using their talents that's deep within them and showing this is what God has done for me. When we let go and, when you truly let go, when you actually want to let go, when you actually make the choice to let go, you feel a lot different. When you're holding on to something, you holding on to something because you just don't feel right. You operate differently. You get a little angry at that person. You get a little angry at the situation. Every time the person speaks, oh my God, please be quiet. Right? But yeah, anywho, you really like, oh my God, can this day just go by? Right? And it's just like, when you change that mindset, you start to be like, oh, well, it's good to see you. You just have conversation. You're like, oh, wow, your dance move, your music's great. You're doing a good job. And what you start to realize is that everything that you used to think is not actually real. It's basically just a scenery that that the devil is putting in your mind because, the devil interferes with what God wants you to do. And, the devil tries to will you in to what he wants you to do. And God has made the devil that way so that you can make a choice. So that you can see that, what your life will look like down here and what your life will look like up here. And, in reality, you can see which side you're reflecting off of. You can see that, that your life may not be as grand as what this person is getting. No, I did that wrong. Your life might not be as, grand as this person is getting because your life is too busy down here because you're not really willing to make the right choice. You're not willing to let go of a feeling that doesn't even really matter. Right? And, as long as you try. Yesterday I was talking about something. When you're in a relationship for so long and then you break up, that feeling is just there for a very long time, And how do you get rid of the feeling? You got to distract yourself. You gotta be willing to hang out with friends. Well, the worldly side, that's how the worldly people view it. Hang out with friends, go out, party, this and the other. But in the spiritual realm, right? How do you let go of a feeling that you don't want anymore? That you're making the decision to say, God, I'm going to let go of this feeling and I'm going to release everything that I have to you so that you can come in and help me. How do you let that go? You got to get back in consistent prayer and reading. You got to stay consistent in your work with God, your life with God. You got to continue to make the right choice, whether that be at work, whether that be in your household, whether that be with friends, whether that be with family, and so on, right? And the list goes on and on. There's a lot of things that you need to bring God in and allow him to sink in so that he can work through you through everything that you do. And, when you actually let it go and, you just throw it all away and say, God, here I am. God comes in so quickly because the fact that you made the decision. The fact that my son and daughter has laid down their life for me as I laid down my son's life for them. Right? And so, Ephesians 2:7 through 10. Now God has us where he wants us with all the time in this world and the next to shower grace and kindness upon his Christ Jesus. Saving is all his idea and all his work. All we do is trust him enough to let him do it. We got to be able to allow our faith to be in him. We have to believe that he's going to do something for us. We're going to have to believe that this is what God really wants me to do. There was a person that I was listening to, I forgot who it was. It might have been Michael Todd, Pastor Michael Todd or whoever. And, the question was, how do you know it's actually God, right? And his answer was, it's actually God when your life is reflecting what God has done for you, right? And, his work in you is literally every work that he has done is a reflection of some story in the Bible. If you actually read the word and you actually understand it, you actually realize that everything that he may be granting, everything that he may be doing is actually a reflection of his word. Right? And that's all based upon the correct decision that you make in your life. You make for your life, you make for your family's life, you make for the generation after. We all have a choice to make, and the choice is going to only be made when we change our mindset. All we do is trust him enough to let him do it. It's God's gift from start to finish. Ever since we was born, ever since we walked into the church, all God wanted us to do is make the right decision. All God wanted us to do is to not judge others, but to love others. God wanted us to make sure that we're doing everything that we do for the glory of God and not the glory for ourselves. And, he grants us all of this, because in the end, without it all, God is going to grant. God has given us a gift to be here. God has chosen us to be here. God has given us a whole totally different life set apart from the world. And it was a gift that was given to us. Right? And God doesn't expect any gift in return. But as long as your faith is right, as long as your faith is right, and as long as you choose to do right, any gift to him doesn't matter. Yes, it's a priority to tithe your 10% back to him. And of course giving an offering, but even without it, God can still bless somebody. God can still show, a different life for somebody. And when that is shown, that's when somebody is motivated in the end to actually tithe, offer, do these things for the Lord. God just gives us a little sprinkle on the top. He gets you in the door. He says, hello, you need to be here. Come do this, come do that. And then, once he sees that you in, the next thing you know, the correction time comes. Right? Get you in the door, give you a little sprinkle, a little cupcake with a sprinkle on the top, and then next thing you know, you got swords and axes flying through your room. But anywho, we don't play the major role. If we did, we probably go around bragging that we done the whole thing, and that's what we do. We get too caught up in our mindset, like, oh, God, this was God, but at the same time, it was me. And, and at that point, you're deceived. But anywho, like you say, like, oh, well, at first you like, oh, yes, God did this for me. Guys, oh, my God, this is what God has done for me. And then you start to get into it too much. You start to feel it a lot too much. You start to, base your life off of it. And then you go around bragging and saying, yeah, God did it for me, but this is what I did. And you ain't did nothing. And somehow your life is still the same. Somehow you still telling somebody the same story, the same testimony that you've been telling for years, and you can't even tell a new testimony because you're too stuck in your old mindset. You can't tell somebody something new. You're always telling somebody the same thing. And, God should be, in a sense, God should be writing a book upon your life. A book that you're able to tell based off the memory, based off of what he has done for you, based off the things that he has given. And you should be able to tell off the top of your head. You don't need to read a book. You should be able to tell off the top of your head and read it out as the author that God has granted you to be able to tell the testimony of what God has done for you in your life. But somehow, every time we pick it up, we're still reading the same story. Why is that? Because we ain't changed our mindset. Because we're not allowing God to actually come in and actually, show other people what it actually takes to actually do this. We still living with that same mindset. God does both the making and the saving. He creates each of us by Christ to join him in the work he does, the good work he has gotten ready for us to do. Work we had better doing. God has granted us a life where we can work diligently for him. God has provided us jobs. God has provided us housing. God has provided us cars. God has provided us food, right? And, we just take it all for granted. Because we just when we get it, we just tell like, yes. In the first moment, we think it's God, and that's how I used to think too. I used to be like, oh, God did this for me, but somehow, some way, I'm still judging somebody else. Somehow, some way, my faith ain't deep in him. Somehow, some way, I'm still blessing God, but somehow I'm not reading his word, nor am I praying. I'm still blessing God, but I can't even tell somebody a testimony because something ain't happening in my life. I'm saying God did this. I'm saying God did that. But have you ever even let him in to actually do something? Have we actually even let go of our past situations to actually say, God, here it is. Here's all of me. My faith is in you and you alone. And I know with all you'll be able to change everything for my better good. We forget that that's even what we're doing it for. Which one is that? Cool. Exodus 13:3. Moses said to the people, always remember this day. This is the day when you came out of Egypt from a house of slavery. We was dead in chains. We was in a grave. God took us out of that grave, brought us here, broke the chains that we had. And, changed our life around, gave us a new way of living, a new life. And somehow we can't let go of whatever we holding on to about somebody. We can't let go of whatever is going on in our life because, we haven't fully committed. We haven't fully submitted. We haven't found out where our faith was. We haven't allowed our faith to be in him so that we could go around and tell a story that, if somebody came to ask you, how do you know it was God? Well, this is what God has done for me. This is the reflection of my life now. This is the reflection of who I used to be, and this is the reflection of who I am now. And, we forget that. We always end up in the reflection that we used to be in. We can't, we always end up in the reflection that we used to be in. And then somehow, we jump back into the water when our life is going a little bit crazy. The boat is rocking and, you feel like you're about to fall off the edge. And then you jump back in and like, God, save me. God, do this for me. But somehow once he does that for us, we hop back over here where it's safe, where we feel good, where we feel the most secure. And we base our life off of a reflection that was once our life, and we can never make the reflection of our lives of what we have now. We're always arguing, doing these things, looking bad at somebody, looking down on somebody else, looking like, oh, well, they're in their season. They're not gonna go anywhere if they don't make this decision, this, that, and the other. Cool, right? But how are you living? What is your life like? Have you took the time to look yourself in the mirror and say, this is my issue? Yes, God may put somebody in the season to go through, but God is also putting somebody else in the season to go through for you to either learn from that season or for you to actually realize for yourself that might be the season that you in. We judge somebody based off of their dance moves, based off of how good they are, based off God, how are you using this person? And you can't use me. But at the end of the day, God doesn't need the most talented person in the world to be used. I guarantee you, God could go take a homeless person off the street right now, bring them into the church, and next thing you know, somehow that person is being blessed upon other people. And somehow we think that, just a miracle's about to happen because, our faith isn't that good in God, but I know God's going to cover me. At the end of the day, when you know that your faith is not good and you think God is covering you, that umbrella that you think that you got on you is not on you. It's still raining. Water's still hitting your head. God is still trying to get in. God is saying, my son, my daughter, let go of whatever you got in you and submit to me. In my season of what I went through was probably the hardest thing that I had to go through as far yet. I know there's a lot more coming, don't get me wrong. But, it was hard for me because I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to let go. I didn't know how to say, God, I'm about to lay my life down. I'm about to submit to you. If you don't want me to be on dance team, May, so be it. If you don't want me to be on the worship team, so be it. At the end of the day, I can't do none of this without you. At the end of the day, my lyrics and everything is trash anyway. My life is not the same as it used to be. And, it's crazy because this story is just literally, I told you yesterday and I started crying. But, only being 23 years old and someone that came from a household that wasn't the best. Me working at Little Caesars Pizza, thinking I'm doing something with my life. Taking Ubers and BART and bus everywhere that I needed to go. And somehow God used me as a human, of course, based off of the season I had to go through, what I have now, what He's given me, was based off of my decision in my season that I needed to go through. I got taken down from everything. Didn't know the reason why. Got called into the office. Pastor Eugene told me that I was in the wilderness season like David. What does that mean? Like, what does it mean? Am I not supposed to see? What is the deal? What I realize is a whole bunch of leaves that's covered up right now so that you don't get too ahead of yourself. So when I take these leaves off, when I take the blindfold off, when I take off what you can't see, you could be ready for it. Did I know God was going to use me to be a head deacon? No, I did not. Do I know what a head deacon do? No. But what I do know is God is using me a lot more. God is, coming to me a lot more, asking me to do this, do that. But one thing that I notice is that the decisions that I made when I decided that, God, I'm going to go wherever you want me to go, I'm going to do whatever you want me to do, I'm able to do that now. If I didn't make that decision back then, right? God put me in a head deacon position, whatever the case may be, put me in a nice car, whatever the case may be. At that moment in time, I could have ruptured my whole life. And, we shouldn't be wanting to get too ahead of ourselves. We shouldn't want to up one person. We shouldn't want to have what somebody else have, because at the end of the day, whatever somebody else has is probably not for you, because you probably can't hold on to it. You probably can't use it for the right purpose. In the season of wilderness, you can't see nothing. And one thing that I'm glad about is that I couldn't see it. Because God needed to work on the things in my heart to make sure that I understand that when he takes this off, the decision that you make in this season is what I need you to do in the next season that you go through. And usually 9 times out of 10, what I realize is the season that you go through is basically preparing you for your next season, so you know what to do in your next season. But if you're not doing what you need to do in your regular season, God is not going to move you to the next season because you're not ready. It took a lot in me to just sit down, be quiet, sit in the back, do nothing. Like, God, do you know how bad I want to be up on that stage right now, rapping and performing, doing this, that, and the other? He like, I don't care. I need you to do my work. I need you to understand my kingdom before I can use you. God gave me a word that he can trust me. But the only reason why he could trust me now is because of the decision that I made. The reason why he could trust me is because at the end of the day, no matter if pastors came to me today or whatever the case may be, I don't get offended or tell them no that I can't do something. At the end of the day, if I don't know what that may look like, if I don't know what it is or what it can be, whatever the case may be, God, I'm going to do it. You assign me to do work, I got work to do. And when I got work to do, I'm going to work for you. Deacon Jr. over there laughing. But, yeah. And so, let me finish this. God brought you out of here with a powerful hand. Don't eat any raised bread. Basically, in a sense, God brought you out of slavery. Basically, God brought you out of your past life. He brought you into a new life. What he's asking of you to do is not go back and feed into what he already took you out of. Because when you go back to what he already took you out of, you basically feeding in everything that you didn't learn out there back into the kingdom, and then you notice that whatever you getting fed out there is not helping you here. And I had to learn that the hard way. I wanted to do music. I wanted to be fun. I wanted to do all this stuff. But yes, maybe I can do music. Maybe I can do dance. Maybe this, that, and the other. But I can't be using what I'm learning out here and bring it here, because at the end of the day, I can't use something like that. Dance team A. I got cut because I wasn't cutting it. Pastor just said that outside. But did I know this? Yes. But I was too busy trying to be like dance team A. When at the end of the day, that's not what God put me on dance team A for. He put me on there to worship him. At the end of the day, now that I think about it, I'm very happy for dance team A, and I'm very happy for dance team B. I'm very happy for all the dance teams, all the holy dance teams, the worship team. If I wasn't on it, I'm happy for them. Sometimes I used to hate that the guys were better than me. At the end of the day, they worked for that. I came in and didn't know nothing, just took whatever I knew out there and brought it here. God used it for a little bit, but then God was like, that's not cutting it either. Now that I know this, whatever the guys do, I'm very happy for them. Because at the end of the day, that's what God has granted. That's what God has given. That's what God uses. He used a broken soul to be brought into here to be used for his kingdom. At the end of the day, whatever the case may be, anything that I do, anything that I take lead in, I want everyone to be better than I could be in that position. Because it's not about me. It's about what God has assigned me to do. He assigned me to take care of his people. Make sure that my people understand and know who I am. Make sure that whatever you're doing, you can reflect for your team, for whoever I have you oversee, whoever I have you mentor, whatever the case may be. Make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do so they can see the reflection of how you got there. You can't get somewhere if you're not willing to open up. And I'm very thankful. More than thankful for the season that I went through. Very glad that God put me there so that I can have a better understanding. So that the mindset that I had, the mindset was changed. How I view people now is not the same. How I manage different departments, how I do certain things is not the same as if I was still here. God has put us on a different level. God has set us apart from the world and set us with a life that was more grand than anything anyone can imagine. We got to be willing to grab whatever he's asking. And I know I say this all the time, but maybe it just needs to sink in that we need to grab whatever he is telling us, hold it on for dear life, just like we hold on for dear life to our phones, to our wallets, to this, that, and the other. All God is asking is for you to just hold on to him. The money that's in your wallet, the phone, all of that stuff can be replaced. But in the end, when it's all over, you only get one chance on this earth. And at that point, anything after that can't be replaced. God only gives you one choice to make it right now. And without making it right now, at that moment in time, you got to answer to God. In that moment, I was thinking about, doing the right thing, but then, I got stuck doing something else, but God. And God gonna be like, but nothing. So, when it all comes down to it, you got to change your mindset now. You got to change your way of thinking now. Because if you bring that same old way of thinking up to God later on down in life, God going to be like, I'm going to send you back to the back of the line until you can get it right. Come back, do it all over again until you can do it right. A hamster around the wheel, just going around in circles. Until I can feed the word, until I can see that you are praying correctly, until I can see that you can manage this well, I can't use you. I need to be able to use my children for the right thing, use my people to help other people understand. But he says, if your life is not reflecting my word, then at that point, you're not living it the way it's supposed to be lived. Amen? Amen.